Hello friends, hello professionals, and welcome to my channel, The Sea of Regulation. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Simone Martin. I'm a financial services regulator, and I have a number of videos trying to help people understand all things financial services and regulation and compliance that can help you because, let's face it, we all typically use something in financial services. So today's video, I'm going to be looking at, in my series, The Basics, who or what is a financial intelligence unit. So before I jump into this, let me get my usual disclaimers out of the way. I am a financial services regulator. I am not a lawyer, and I am not a professional advisor. The views on this channel are definitely all my own, and they do not represent any regulatory authority, any international standard setter, or any financial intelligence unit. So with that out of the way, let's dive in. So the Financial Intelligence Unit, or FIUs in some jurisdictions, or they may have a different name like Financial Intelligence Agencies or Financial Crimes Investigators, are bodies that are created to address issues of compliance, AML, CFT, and their main role is twofold. They can be an investigative authority to examine suspicious transaction reports, suspicious activity reports that are received from the financial services industry, as well as DNFBPs, designated non-financial businesses and persons, as well as maybe approve some elements of compliance manuals, and it could be more of an approval provision for DNFBPs, especially in areas such as non-for-profits, real estate agents, jewelers. And if you're a DNFBP and you're not sure as to how this captures you, I have a video, or a few videos actually, that dealt with DNFBPs that you can look at so that you can get a little more education in this space. But let's focus on the FIUs. Now, FIUs have very critical roles in their jurisdictions. They're the ones that investigate suspicions that are brought to them via industry participants, via the money laundering reporting officers, or the general public, or other intelligence that they may receive to help thwart financial crimes, to prevent people from laundering money, to prevent terrorist financing from funding an organization that is going to carry out something. They're planning something that is catastrophic, and we just don't want that. But financial intelligence units engage in a bit more than just analyzing, investigating, and maybe engaging with the industry on those intelligence reports. They sometimes, well, oftentimes, put out guidance in relation to what they're seeing in their jurisdiction, and it's actually one of their requirements. Now, financial intelligence units are captured under the FATF recommendations, and I'll put more information in relation to that in the description below, because they're not authorities unto themselves. They do report to someone in their jurisdiction, but they're also defined as a competent authority. Now, as it relates to their intelligence gathering and investigations, most FIUs, if they're worth their salt, are a part of a bigger international grouping, which is the Egmont Group. And I'll put the link for that particular organization below. The Egmont Group wants to see that FIUs in different countries are adhering to certain best practices and principles and standards for their operations. There's issues of confidentiality, investigation protocols, and other things that are definitely important to make sure that an FIU is being run right. It's so important, in fact, that it also ties into the FATF recommendation that I mentioned earlier. Now, let's not get off topic. It's AML CFT that this channel focuses on as one of its touch points. Financial intelligence units also engage with other competent authorities. So, for example, in my role as a regulator, I've had occasion to engage with financial intelligence units. And it is important for there to be dialogue, cooperation between competent authorities to help further that investigation and intelligence gathering. But it just doesn't work within the country. You see, FIUs can share information with other FIUs to help the global fight against financial crimes, money laundering, terrorist financing, proliferation financing, let's not forget that. And there's a whole network that is at play and at work to make sure that they can thwart a lot of the activity that's happening in relation to financial services and beyond. Now, as it relates to you, if you are a financial services provider, you might have reported a suspicion and you would want to know what to do, especially if it is that, you've hit on a hot point and this particular client is engaged in something. You have to be mindful to not tip off the client that an investigation may be going on in relation to them. But to do so and to make sure that you yourself are not caught afoul of the law, you have to engage with the financial intelligence unit to make sure that what you're doing is permitted. So for example, you're a bank and that particular customer wants to transfer $100,000 to a different jurisdiction. You've already identified a suspicion. The FIU has already contacted you. You need to execute this transaction. What happens is that you quietly engage with the FIU to seek guidance on what to do, and the FIU will give you that guidance in a very timely manner. That is what is supposed to happen, and that happens a great number of times. But one of the disclaimers I will put out there is that we are human beings and human beings are not perfect. So sometimes there are issues, but it's important for us to all do our part. And when it comes to wider guidance, FIUs are really good at putting out typology reports in relation to things that they see impacting their particular jurisdictions. They also work in cooperation with other FIUs to produce global reports that are relevant in emerging risks or changes in risks that had already been identified. So if it is that you've put up, rails to stop someone from getting access into a building, they might try to go through another access point. Criminals think the same way. They look for opportunities, and when they identify the opportunities, it is important that financial intelligence units and everyone else that's in the fight against money laundering, terrorist financing, proliferation financing, redouble their efforts to make sure that criminals have no ground to run to. Now, financial intelligence units also might be an area where if you are very minded to contribute to the fight, you might be able to find a job with them. But they're very strict requirements. And you have to get background checks because you'll have access to a lot of information. And there's an oath of confidentiality that they also swear to. So it is one of those jobs that's very sensitive, and it's often underappreciated because they work a lot in the background and people don't typically see what they do. If you're a money laundering reporting officer, you might be familiar with some of what they do, but sometimes we just don't have an appreciation for them. And I think it's important to recognize that FIUs are critical in playing a role in preventing money laundering, detecting criminals, having cooperation with their colleagues in other countries, and just, participating in that global fight. I can't say enough about them because guess what? They don't say anything about themselves. They tend to work very quietly. But guys, this is just a snapshot of what FIUs do in this particular installment of the basics. And if you found it helpful, share it with your friends. If you found it very helpful, definitely hit the like button. It helps with the algorithm. And hit the notification bell because, of course, you want to be notified when I drop another video. So with that being said, I'll catch you on the next one.